Hey, what's up YouTube? This is Nick with EDC Mag, and today we're here to talk about a knife from WE Knives. Today's review is going to be brought to you by Band-Aid. Oh, no, I'm just kidding. Not really. Let's get right into this. I just picked this up, and I've had it for a few days. Came with this neat little multi-tool from Blade HQ and WE Knives. It's pretty nifty. But I want to get right into this knife, and so let's start with some of the specs and details. So this is the WE Blocao, and I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. It's Blocao, and basically it's Spanish for brick house. This is the 920A. It comes in two versions, a 920A and a 920B. The biggest difference is going to be the B comes in a black stonewashed titanium bolster, where this is just stonewashed natural, matching the blade. This knife was designed by Miguel Barbudo, and he's a maker and designer from Madrid. I think he went professional in about 2015, so he hasn't been doing this forever, but he kind of grew up working in a forge with his father and got into making knives and kind of tried to take it professionally, or did take it professionally, I guess, in 2015. This knife is a 4.2 inch blade, so this is a good sized knife. It's S35VN, which is kind of the standard in 2019 for blade steel, which is an excellent steel. It has titanium bolsters. It has marbled carbon fiber. It is a, there's titanium liners, titanium clip, and it is a lock back. Clip point blade, flat grind, just an absolutely beautiful knife, just stunning. Now, I hadn't heard of Miguel before we came out with this knife, but when they first brought it out, the previews for it, I looked him up, and wow, he does make some really stunning knives. So I'm looking forward to. I'm following him now. Look him up on Instagram. Again, it's Barbudo, Barbudo. He makes some really gorgeous stuff. So hopefully I'll have a chance at some point to get a hold of one of his customs at some point. Again, this is the lock back. It has a very generous hole for a lanyard. Just overall, just a really, really gorgeous knife. And according to the specs, again, this is a production knife, so you can look all this up. According to the specs, this thing weighs 6.5 ounces. Just to give you an idea of the size difference, so we've got a 3.2 inch Kershaw and a 4.2 inch WE. Not really a tall blade, so to speak, but still a very gorgeous knife. I mean, it just looks amazing, and it photographs really well. Last year we came out with a knife that ended up being by far my favorite production knife of 2018, and this is still one of my most carried blades. I carry this thing constantly. I just love this knife. I mean, they just knocked it out of the park, and this was an internal design to WE. They really just hit everything perfectly on this knife. And I am a fan of WE Knives. If you're not familiar with WE Knives, WE is a Chinese manufacturer. They make a lot of knives with designers and famous or well-known and some not so well-known knife makers. They're one of the better-known Chinese knife makers, they don't get into the clone stuff and the copies and all of those things. It's their own designs, and their quality is second to none. There's Riot, there's Wee, there's Kaiser, are what I would say are my top three. There's quite a few others that are out there, and there's a lot more coming up that are really starting to make a name, but definitely Wee is in the top two, I would say, with Riot as far as well known for quality. So if you've never checked out Wee knives, I bet you have by now. Looked at Wee knives, you're probably familiar. Hopefully you've had a chance to hold one. You know the action on these things is legendary. Which is why I've been struggling with this knife. They came out with an amazing design, and I was so impressed with it, and it sold out fast, and people loved it, and I really thought we was going to do it again. Now this blade shape really isn't something that I seek out, but I was willing to give it a shot. I liked the size, I liked everything about it. So I got this knife last week when it first came out, the second I could, as fast as I could. And I've been playing with it ever since, and I've been trying to make myself like this knife, and I think maybe either I just completely missed the ball on this thing, or somebody screwed the pooch. I mean, this knife is kind of like something that a bunch of executives that don't know anything about knives thought up in a boardroom somewhere. I'm going to show you what I mean. First of all, let's talk about the jimping. Oh wait, there is none. So there's no jimping on this knife anywhere. These scales, extremely well done. Now, how Wee describes this is a souped up lockback. And they're not wrong about that. This is a very beautiful knife, very smooth scales, smooth transitions, everything you would expect from Wee, except for the fact that, well, there are a lot of facts. But let's get back to the lack of jimping. The way this is made, it puts your front two fingers where they need to be, and it gives you the freedom to adjust the backside. So that in hand, this thing feels pretty good. In my hand, this is a little bit small. I can't quite get a good enough grip on it, but that just has to do with the size of my hands. Everyone's hands are different. I'm sure for most people that's probably going to feel really good in hand. I love the length of it, that 4.2 inch blade. I love the drop down in the back. It's really gives you, some good grip. So as far as the scale goes and the design, it's excellent. Now here's where this blade loses me. It's almost like this knife, they didn't have a purpose with it. When you see online intended use, it says everyday carry. Well, okay, but I mean, this is called a brick house, and yeah, it feels strong. This lock is bulletproof. I mean, this is one of the best lock styles out there. But how are you going to bear down on something with no jimping? So you've got this bulletproof lock and a knife that's as slick as glass. There's no jimping on it anywhere. So if you're bearing down on this knife, there's nothing up here. So all of the pressure and all of the grip comes right here on this finger. That's where all your control is going to be, because there's nothing up here. Now the reason this is all done by this knife. There's 3 on this finger, 1 on this finger. And I'm going to show you why. And this is what I don't understand. This lock does not belong on this knife. This is on bearings. But yet they say in one of their videos, they recommend that you open this with the thumb stud. Okay, then why is it on bearings? And again, with this lock, if you'll notice, when you deploy this lock, when you disengage it, that blade falls. If this handle happens to be at more than a horizontal angle, that blade falls right on your finger. And you know why? Because in order to deploy this lock, you've got to grip this knife. And to grip this knife, your finger has to be across that choil. And that blade falls right on it. And that is just a bad idea. It's a really bad idea. If you're not paying attention, this thing will get you every time. Here's the other thing. It has a thumb stud, which is great, but in order to release it, you almost can't not flip it, but it won't lock itself with just using the thumb stud. I'm going to use both hands here because I'm really getting tired of being cut with this thing. Well, all right. Here. So it will deploy if you use some hard wrist action, which to me seems a little ridiculous since it's on bearings. There are several ways that this knife could have prevented that from happening. The biggest way would be a different blade design. If you take something like this, where you have more weight up front, where it's going to carry that blade and produce more force to the lock, that's going to engage this lock. There's no weight out here. All the weight's back here. So it does not engage this lock. And when it doesn't engage, it bounces. See that? That's just utterly ridiculous. So if you have a grip problem, if your hands are weak, if you've had a stroke, if you have arthritis, this knife is gonna get you. I mean, and I don't mean that in a good way. It's gonna get you. I just don't understand the logic here. There's no logic here. There's no logic in this knife. I don't know what this knife's intention is. Now, don't get me wrong. I love big, ridiculous knives. They are my favorite thing, but they function, and they function well. What are you going to do with this? Peel an apple? Who cares? But it's not going to come back and bite you because you're not looking at it. If I've got this in my pocket, in my main carry pocket on my right side, and my left hand is full, and I reach out and grab this thing, but I can't see it, so it's by feel, I'm never going to trust this thing. Never. All it's going to do is come back and bite me. Let's say I've deployed it. I heard it click. I know it's locked. And then I'm done with it, and my left hand is still full, and I still can't see. I've got to trust that I know where this knife is so it doesn't come back when I'm trying to close it and put it back in my pocket and bite me. This is bad design. And it's so weird because I love WE knives so much. No one thought this out. I'm not blaming the designer. This has got to be on WE. I believe that he supplied them with this blade design. This is very much his design, and he makes some other designs, and they're gorgeous. He makes this in a fixed blade and a folding blade. I don't know that he does this lock back. I don't know if we said, hey, we need a lock back, somebody go make that happen, and they just went out and threw some shit together. This should never have come to market. It's dangerous. It just is. You better be damn well paying attention when you're playing with this thing. I'm not an expert, but I'm not new either. And this thing has bit me 4 times in the last 3 hours. This shouldn't happen. This is just, I'm so disappointed and so sad with this thing because it is so gorgeous. If you want a knife that's going to look good in pictures, This is the perfect knife for you. I mean, this thing is just absolutely beautiful. Absolutely stunning. It feels good in hand. I mean, this Barbudo design, this blade, it's beautiful. But why do you have a brick house knife with no grip and no control and no jimping anywhere? This should have jimping up here. It should have jimping back here. This thing, if you're working in any type of adverse condition, not only do you have to worry about this thing getting you when you're opening it, it getting you when you're closing it, but you got to worry about, see that? You got to worry about holding on to it while you're using it. If it's wet, your hands are wet. If they're sweaty, if it's cold, I mean, I don't know what the purpose of this knife is other than to ride around in your pocket and look pretty. But it's so weird to have something made so incredibly well that has just no logic whatsoever. I'm just baffled by this whole thing. They need some weight on the front of that blade if they're going to use a lockback in this design. Here's the other thing. They say, well, see what happens. Let's see. See that? It's coming back to get me. And they say, well, you know, you're best off pulling that with your thumb. Well, it's going to fire out anyway because it's on bearings. If it's not supposed to fire out like that, why put it on bearings? And I'll tell you the other thing it needs a half stop. This thing should have a half stop because that way it's not going to come back and get your fingers every time it bounces. It'll stop, but it doesn't. It's just on bearings. There's no reason for this. There's just no reason. This is just... It frustrates me because I really wanted to love this knife. And I do. I love the aesthetics. I love the look. It's absolutely beautiful. I need a knife that I can reach down in my pocket without seeing, without looking, pull it out, deploy it, and know it's going to be there for me. And know that when I go to close it, it's closed. And it's not going to bite me. That I don't have to double check and make sure that it's open all the way. This thing has a tendency to half engage. So it feels locked. If you can't see that blade and it feels engaged and then you go to use it and it's going to fold on you. I'm sorry guys. See that? That's just, if you don't have the thumb and the wrist and the grip and everything, if your hand is wet, this thing's going to fly out of your hand. Maybe I'm getting a little over emotional here. I'm so blown away and baffled by this. I'm just, maybe I'm completely missing the entire point on this knife. But to me, this thing is just a danger. I might carry this around just to show it off, but I have knives for that. I don't know what I'd do with this other than bleed. I don't know what to tell you guys. If you like the looks of it and you think I'm full of shit, which, you know, you won't get any argument from me, that's fine. But this knife was not made with any logic or thought. It's skillfully crafted. It's very strong. It's a hot mess. It's a tactical disaster. How's that? I don't know what to... I don't know, guys. I didn't want to do this review, and I've been, you know, going back and forth on this, but I can't pretend to like something that... This thing is just dangerous. You can't be doing anything else and try to use this knife, because it will get you. So if you're looking for a gift for someone that's new to knives, do not buy them this. They'll never touch a knife ever again. This is not We. We is better than this. I don't know what happened with this. I don't know what went wrong. But this is the worst, one of the worst knives from a functionality standpoint that I've ever seen come to market. I just don't understand it. This is high quality. This damn thing is almost $300, like $270. And you have to put your finger across it to deploy it. That's bad. You can do this two-handed, I guess. So why not a different design? This is... I'm frustrated, guys. I really am. I don't know what else to tell you guys. That's probably a little bit different review than what you're used to seeing from me. This is the first production knife I've done in a while. But I love WE knives. I'm not sure what happened here. But that is definitely not that. This is one of the best knives out there in the production world. This is a damn disaster. Well, hey guys, this is Nick with EDC Mag. There's a little disaster review for you. I appreciate you guys watching. If you haven't subscribed, please do. We got a lot more coming up. A lot more stuff going on. And until next time, have a great day.